Hey guys, my name's Emilio, and today I'm gonna be reviewing. Joke lang guys, it's empty. Laptop's already here. Gotcha. So last June, Apple unveiled their big plan for Macs to start using their own in-house chips. Same chips you see on your iPhone and iPad. It's a huge move, no doubt, and it promises an increase in performance while providing much better battery life. So now it's January 2021, and Apple finally unveiled their first batch of Apple Silicon Macs. They unveiled the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the Mac Mini, and they unveiled the all-new M1 MacBook Air. And a lot of people, particularly students, have been asking about the new M1 chip. They've been asking about these new Macs, and they're doing so probably because they want to get a new computer. So for all of those questions, I'm here to help you guys out choose what's right for you. And I'm going to do so by narrowing down the question to the most affordable MacBook you can buy. So overall, this MacBook Air is pretty much the same as the last generation. It's got the same design, it's still thin and it's still light. You can hold it in one hand. It's got that space gray finish, or if you want to get a silver or gold, and you open it up, it's got that same Retina display and the keyboard. But what makes this thing stand out isn't what's external, but it's what's inside this laptop. And this laptop rocks the main feature, the M1 chip. The M1 is a system on a chip that provides an 8-core CPU, so you get 4 high-performance cores that really push your system to the limit. And you have 4 high-efficiency cores, which really tries to reduce the energy consumption on your Mac. Now, fun fact, those 4 high-efficiency cores, just half of M1, actually produces the same, if not more power and performance than the previous Intel MacBook Air altogether. So it's really exciting stuff. Now, the GPU also comes in either 7 or 8 cores, depending on what Mac model you choose. If you get the base model MacBook Air, you'll get a 7-core GPU, while the rest of the lineup, including the Mac Mini and MacBook Pro, get an 8-core GPU. Now, this M1 chip is also built with a 5nm architecture, which makes the chip actually more efficient due to its much smaller size. Now, another thing about the M1 chip is the faster neural engine, which has up to 16 cores, which makes your machine learning and artificial intelligence performance even more enhanced than before. Now, going to battery life on this MacBook Air is just incredible. Honestly, guys, Apple promises up to 18 hours in battery life. On a typical 9 hours of standby, that's basically the time I'm sleeping, so you guys need to get that 9 hours of sleep every day. Don't deprive yourselves of that. I get -2% with 2 Chrome tabs on. Imagine Chrome really eats up your performance and battery life. Now, on a 6-hour period straight with Chrome on, that got me at -80% of battery life. And on a 3-hour Zoom call with some Chrome tabs open, I'd get -40%. But I guess the game changes when you use Safari, which is obviously much more power efficient than Chrome. So for an hour of using Safari and Spotify at the same time, you get a deduction of 5% in battery life. That's insane. And for an hour and a half of Safari and Notion on, 10%. That's unheard of on a Mac. Mac usually heats up, fans usually chime in, it's usually at 50% already by then. So those are the advantages of M1. But I guess one disadvantage of M1 right now is probably that a lot of apps aren't necessarily built for M1 yet. Majority of apps right now on the Mac are still built on the Intel x86 architecture, which means they're built for your previous Intel Macs, but they haven't really been optimized to take full advantage of M1. Now, Rosetta 2 is an additional translation layer that Apple created to allow Intel apps to run on Apple's Silicon Macs. Now, this can potentially slow down your Mac, but some YouTubers actually found that running apps on Rosetta 2 actually performed better than running apps on their current Intel Macs. So that's mind-blowing, honestly. But I digress, guys. To even think about optimizing Photoshop or Final Cut Pro on a MacBook Air just shows how high my expectations are for this machine. And unsurprisingly, this thing delivers. This is the first MacBook Air I'd honestly recommend to anyone that does intensive photo or video editing. Now, if you guys are interested in seeing some numbers, here they are. These are compared to the current Intel MacBook Air, and this is also compared to the current 16-inch MacBook Pro, which costs around $3,000. But it's different to have numbers, and it's different to really test this out in the real world. So the MacBook Air is actually super awesome for Final Cut. You know, it's super smooth, no lag. You can edit 1080p HD video in a breeze, and you can edit up to 3 streams of 4K ProRes video on this MacBook Air. That's virtually unheard of in this form factor. Photoshop also performs decently. This is still running on Rosetta 2s. You don't really get to maximize M1 yet, but I'm gonna link you guys to even more YouTubers just to show you guys how amazing this performance is. Now, aside from M1, obviously this MacBook Air has its advantages. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, this has the same stunning design that Apple's known for. It's got that magic keyboard for much greater travel, but yet it's super thin and super light. So it's still thin, but it doesn't have that same butterfly mechanism on recent MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros where the key travel wasn't so great. Now, you kind of need this travel so you don't really lose a sense of what you're typing. I mean, that's just a preference for many people. And I think Apple did a good job in reviving that key travel. Though I kind of wish they didn't remove that backlit keyboard key on this laptop. Though I think that do not disturb button actually helps for a lot of people, especially for those that have professors that post on Canvas past 7 p.m. Like, bruh, why? Now, the speakers on this thing are incredible. They're not the loudest speakers. If you want loud speakers, you should probably get a MacBook Pro, the 13 or even 16-inch, because those have like insanely good speakers. But if you're a sound buff, I don't think this will disappoint. It has stereo quality speakers. So if you like AirPods Pro and you like all those sound effects, hearing all those second voices in the background, you know, this MacBook Air has that and it does not disappoint. So this MacBook Air also has Touch ID. It's easy to just log in to your Mac. You don't have to type in a password. You just put in your fingerprint and it works like a charm. Now, the M1 MacBook Air doesn't have a fan. Now, Apple did this because they trust that the M1 won't necessarily heat up as much. And it honestly never did in my experience. Only when I used Photoshop for at least 30 minutes straight. So, hey guys, just an update. I've been editing this video for the past 3 hours on the MacBook Air. And thermal-wise, the Mac kinda got hot after the 3 hours. Like, I felt it underneath and kinda got hot, but not super hot naman. But then when you look at battery consumption, the battery fell by 60 to 70% at 3 hours of use. So the advantage of having no fan is that it sustains the components inside because, you know, usually if you have a fan in your laptop, it will usually start to collect dust. And the dust will not only stay within the fan, it'll spread to the rest of the components. So without the fan, this will not collect dust, and so your components will be much more sustained. But I guess that in a sense becomes detrimental to power users that like to multitask for extensive periods of time, or that like to do photo or video editing for extensive periods of time. That'll potentially heat up your MacBook and potentially throttle your performance. But for most use cases, honestly guys, this MacBook Air does not disappoint. Even as I'm doing 4K video editing on Final Cut, you know, this thing really does so well. You actually have to force it to heat up. Now, maintaining that same design, the MacBook Air still has those extremely large bezels. And honestly, iPhones and iPads have much smaller bezels, and they're the devices you probably need bezels on because you actually touch their screens, but you don't touch a Mac screen, and yet they have large bezels. So Apple's probably gonna have a redesign soon. So if you wanna wait on those new designs, you can do so. Now, Apple also promised to improve their camera quality on the MacBook Air by providing noise reduction, greater dynamic range, improved auto white balance, and machine learning enhanced face detection powered by the M1 chip. But hold your horses, guys, because this webcam is still 720p. I mean, honestly, we're already in Zoom University, and why? Like, just why? So going back to the question, should students get the M1 MacBook Air? My short answer would be yes. I'd honestly recommend this to anyone that does light work like web browsing, watching Netflix, or using Google Workspace like Docs, Sheets, and Slides. It's an incredible improvement from the previous MacBook Air. If you're a student though that does photo and video editing, honestly, I'd also recommend this for you. Now, you probably don't do much of it, but even if you do, you know, this MacBook Air will not disappoint. It does everything you'll need. And yeah, sure, it'll heat up a bit, but you'll really have to push it to its limit before that happens. But honestly, before that, you're probably going to be resting already. But if your career or your course relies heavily on graphic design or photo video editing, and you need that extra time that you could have gotten from the export time on the MacBook Air, then you should probably invest in the M1 MacBook Pro or the M1 Mac Mini, because those things have fans. They don't heat up as much. And so those will be better for power users who do a lot of multitasking. Or you could probably hold off from these and wait for the M1X or wait for the Pro lineup of Apple Silicon Macs coming later this year. But overall, guys, just to give you a sense of context, I've always wanted to get a MacBook Air. I mean, it's super thin and it's super light. The form factor is amazing. But honestly, the old MacBook Air came with a lot of drawbacks. It had a poor display. It didn't have the Retina display yet. It didn't perform as well. Like, you couldn't do a lot of heavy multitasking, or you couldn't do a lot of photo or video editing because it would probably just heat up or slow down. But when Apple updated this with the Retina display in 2018, I was like, oh, it sounds pretty interesting. And last year, they brought back that Magic Keyboard, which provided much greater travel for your keys. And obviously, with the M1 chip, I can finally say that the MacBook Air is now worthy to be my daily driver for school, for running this YouTube channel, for running 730 lectures. Shout out to 730 lectures. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. But more importantly, this has become the default laptop recommendation I'd personally recommend to students or even beginner content creators, or honestly, just anyone. Because this thing really performs well and it just changes the game entirely. So if you're due for a new laptop, get this. Honestly, this is a great investment. Or even if you got a MacBook Air from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, sell that, save up a few thousand pesos, buy this, and enjoy yourself. Thanks guys for watching my YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked my video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up down there. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. And click the bell beside the subscribe button so you get notifications every time I post a video.